Hello everyone, my name is Agnes Veronika Juliawala, English Literature, Universitas Bina Sarana Informatika Cengkareng from class 33 for A25. Today I will be presenting the final project about the poem Out by Robert Frost. Okay, this is part of the slide. The poem Out by Robert Frost. The second, analyze this poem on the side of intrinsic and extrinsic elements. The third, elaborate the message from this poem. The fourth, create the poem that contains with the aspect of the following smile, metaphor, or personification. And the last, closing. The first slide, I want to read the poem. The title, Out by Robert Frost. The bass saw snarled and threatened in the earth, and made dust and dropped staff-length sticks of wood. Sweet-scented stuff with the breeze drove across it, and from there those that live ice cold count. 5 mountain rings one behind the other, under the sunset, far into Vermont. And the sail snarled and rattled, as it ran light, or had to bear a lot, and nothing happened. Day was all but gone. Call it a day. I wish they might have said, to please the boy by giving him the half hour that a boy counts so much when safe from work. His sister stood beside him in her apron to tell them, super, at the word the sow, as if to prove so knew what super meant. Lifted out the boy's hand, or seemed to lift. He must have give the hand, however it was. Neither refused the meeting but the hand. The boy's first outcry was a rueful loud, as he swung toward them holding up the hand, half in appeal but half as if to keep the life from spilling. Then the boy saw all. Since he was old enough to know, big boy doing a man's work, thought a child at heart. He saw all spoiled. Don't let him cut my hand off, the doctor, when he comes. Don't let him, sister. So, but the hand was gone already. The doctor put him in the dark of ether. He lay and puffed his lips out with his breath. And then the watcher at his pulse took fright. No one believed. They listened at his heart. Little, less nothing. And that ended it. Okay, the next slide is about intrinsic and extrinsic elements. Intrinsic elements, them, life and death. It tells of the untimely death of a young man, and in doing so, it draws attention to the fragility of life and the somewhat callous nature in which life must go on. In the face of such untimely death, the tone of hopelessness takes over the poem and points out how unpredictable human life is in general, even though people seem to forget to the boy. Rather quickly, the tone of the second half of the poem makes it safe to say that Frost want to highlight how no child should be forced to do something that could only be assigned to an adult. Imagery. Imagery is used all over the poem. Out. Frost's use of symbolism in the poem is significant because constant in Frost's writing style. When the dead boy is friends, neighbor, and family, were not the one that thrown to their affairs, symbolize the most people once dead are forgotten in time. Structure and form. Out is a single stanza poem made up of 34 lines, of 30 until 4 lines. There is no single rhyme scheme or metrical pattern, although a few of the lines distributed throughout the text are in iambic pentameter. Frost also makes use of a number of other poetic techniques. Extrinsic. Outer background. Robert Lee Frost. Okay, the next slide. Extrinsic elements. Outer background. Robert Lee Frost. March 26, 1874 until January 29, 1963 was an American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in the United States. Known for his realistic depiction of rural life and his command of American colloquial speech, Frost frequently wrote about settings from rural life in New England in the early 20th century, using them to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Title: Out was inspired by analyze Out died in an accident at a young Robert Frost, the true story of a young boy. Raymond Tracy Fitzgerald, who aged. It is generally thought that the title is an allusion to the famous line in Shakespeare's Macbeth. Out, brave candle. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player. Allusion. Literally, allusions at Frost in concentrating his inquiry against religion, citing the works of Epicurus and Shakespeare. The riddle of Epicurus is especially prominent. What but the sign of darkness to appall? Historical context. The poem was first published in July of 1916 in M.C. Clure. It was later included in his collection, Maintained Interfly, published that same year. Out was inspired by the true story of a young boy, Raymond Tracy Fitzgerald, who died in an accident at a young age. Okay, the next slide is elaborate the message of this poem. Out is a poem based on a true story that happened to the son of one of Frost's friends. It tells of the untimely death of a young man, and in doing so, it draws attention to the fragility of life and the somewhat callous nature in which life must go on in the face of such an untimely death. The message is the absurdity which is there in life. The beauty of life is also surrounded with the similar cruelty. All of its end in the meaninglessness of death. Okay, the next slide. Create the poem that contains with the aspect of the following smile, metaphor, or personification. The sadness. Sad heart is like a cloudy sky. The cloudy sky makes the moon and sun invisible. The sky can understand all in fact. The sky is crying so profusely, life is so sad. The sadness was so deep that make her want to die, nothing can entertain to love. Everything tastes bitter and unexpected. Smile is in the sad heart is like a cloudy sky section. Metaphor is seen and the cloudy sky makes the moon and sun invisible. Okay, I think that's all my presentation today, and thank you guys.